The Town Star competition happening on July 15, 2025 will feature the paper bag meta. The paper bag is crafted in the boxing facility. I'll let the boxing facility worker explain the crafting requirements.
To make a paper bag, you need 3 eco paper, 1 piece of wool, 1 bucket of water, and 2 energy batteries.
Thanks, boxing facility worker. Wow, I didn't know that's what the inside of the boxing facility looked like, but that does explain the muscles. Why we need the water and energy to make the paper bags, I'm not too sure, but I think we know better than to question those kind of things. The paper bag has a craft time of 1 minute and 40 seconds and stored in the storehouse. For this competition, paper bag will give 135,000 stars for each one sold. The trade time for this competition is 60 seconds with a 1 gasoline cost per trade. The starting layout provided for this competition is a forest biome with a river on the south side. There are several ponds you could sell for some extra starting cash. The cash boosts for this competition are eco paper from 13,450 to 39,500 and wool from 3,750 to 37,500. The rewards for this competition are the standard Gala rewards for reaching the top 1,200 placements in the leaderboard by the time the competition ends. Rewards are usually distributed directly to your account within 5 days. This is the paper bag design that I've created for this upcoming competition. It's like the second version of it since I did make some additional changes in order to fix the cash deficit issue, which I will talk about later. But this one is doing just a little over 31 paper bags per hour, it seems like, or maybe it's very close to 31 paper bags. It has been running for 3 hours now, and I'm going to scroll through the production rate so you can see the production rates of everything. But it looks like honey is close to 93, honeycomb is actually 96 per hour, but that only makes 93 glue per hour, which makes the 93 eco papers per hour. Now I am making enough bamboo shoots to make 96 eco papers per hour, but seemingly I'm not making enough glue for that, so I am overproducing the bamboo shoots, and this is what makes the total at 31 paper bags per hour. But if I were to make a little bit more honey for a little bit more glue, then I would have been at 32 paper bags per hour. So this is like the second version of this design that I created. The first version was doing the 32 paper bags per hour. I had that running for over 12 hours, so I know that rate was stable. But the thing is that that one was cash negative, which means over time you were losing 300,000 cash per hour. So imagine if you ran that for like 70 hours, basically almost the entirety of the competition, right? You would end up paying 21 million in wages. So the only way that would have worked is if you had an additional 21 million after you've completed your build. That way you wouldn't run out of cash before the competition ended. But I know some people don't want to do that. So I did change some stuff up in order to include a third sheep pen. I'm not really going to show you what the first version of it was, but I can kind of explain it. I mean, I had the 2 beehives here and 2 clover fields here, but obviously I've moved those over here. I did get rid of 1 clover field in order to accommodate for the extra space I needed here. But having 3 sheep pens like this and 11 meadows will allow me to produce enough wool where I am able to sell the excess amount of wool to get additional cash. That way I won't be cash negative. So right now this design is cash positive, just barely, but once you finish it up and you're making this amount of wool and this amount of paper bags, then you will be cash positive and you won't have any issues running it for the rest of the competition, assuming everything's working correctly. And with all that explained, I'm going to dive into the crafting process of everything, starting with lumber production. I have 8 logger houses in charge of collecting the wood from the 18 tree farms and taking it to either the sheep pens or the lumber mills, but mostly the lumber mills. So I have 3 lumber mills crafting lumber. They have the passive water drums and passive energy from the power plants over here. They take the lumber and store it in the lumber yard right here. And then I explained the ceramic bowl production. There are 2 forklifts in charge of picking up clay lumps from the 5 clay fields, taking them to the closest warehouse, which would be this one. But there are 2 warehouses in total. And I have a nuclear power providing providing passive energy to all of the pottery shops without casting any dirty on them. And that, of course, I also have the forklifts far away enough from the pottery shops so they don't cast dirty on them either. And I have water pumps to supply the passive water drum to the pottery shops as well. So they only need to pick up 2 clay lumps, preferably from the warehouse if they're already stored on here. And all the 11 pottery shops will be making ceramic bowls. Now for the glue production, I have 5 beekeepers and a total of 16 beehives. So for the beehives, 6 are making honey. That would be these 4. And then in the middle, I have these 2 making honey. And the other 10 are making honeycombs. And then I have 15 clover fields in total surrounding them. Like I said, there's one over here as well. And the honey and honeycomb gets stored in the pantry, which I have one of right here. And I am using 3 wizards workshops. I only have 2 of them crafting glue, but as I always explain, I do have the full set of enchanted fireworks, and I can't disable that for these designs, and that does reduce the craft time of my wizards workshops by 50%. But I do believe that if you have 3 wizards workshops crafting glue, you should be completely okay and make all the glue that you need to get this to work. And that glue gets stored in the storehouse, of which I have 2 of them just to be safe, because you do have to store 3 different items. You have to store wool, paper bag, and glue. This could work with one storehouse, but it's risky. You probably will lose a couple of items. Rather than risk it, you're better off just having the 2 storehouses. So next I'll explain the eco paper. I have 3 tractors in charge of collecting the bamboo shoots from the bamboo farms. These require 9 water. That is a lot of water. That's why there are several ponds. And trying to have more bamboo shoots than this is going to be very difficult for those of you who are trying to achieve a higher production rates. But this setup ended up working for me. I have 34 bamboo farms, and I have just 1 silo for all the bamboo shoots right here close to the stationery shops. And there are a total of 10 stationery shops all making eco paper. These 5 right here next to this water pump for the passive water drum, these 3 next to this water pump, and these 2 next to this water pump. So I'm using water pumps to provide the passive water drum. So I have full passive water drums for everything. My original idea was to just have 1 water facility supply all of the water drums for the stationery shops. That could have worked. Might have been a little slower, so maybe I needed another stationery shop on top of that. But yeah, it could have worked, but I decided to just do it this way, seeing as this setup seems to work okay for what I'm trying to accomplish, and it does work okay, so this is what I went with. And then finally, the paper bags. As the boxing facility worker already explained, here's the requirements, but I do have the 1 ATV here collecting the wool from the 3 sheep pens, 11 meadows in total for them to feed upon. And then the 2 boxing facilities are in charge of crafting the paper bags. I don't think 1 is enough to craft all of them, so you do want to have both of them. Now for the gasoline setup, I'm using the standard setup with 2 water pumps, 2 power plants, a refinery in between them crafting gasoline, and the refinery to the side crafting petroleum. I do have a fuel storage to store all of the crude oil, petroleum, and gasoline. I have 3 oil pumps to craft the crude oil with, and that is enough to make all the gasoline that I need to sell everything for this design. And for the trade setup, I'm only using the 1 trade depot right here. And this doesn't leave any empty space, any unused space. So I mean, if you need space for your builder houses, just temporarily get rid of the clover fields, add a bunch of builder houses. But once you're done, obviously replace them back for the clover fields or the meadows, of course. But yeah, I actually ended up using every single space in this design. Before I move on, I also want to say that, of course, for nuclear power and the power plants, make sure to turn those off. You don't want to be crafting energy. Everything has passive energy on here. And for the beehives, these are naturally facing south. Whenever you place these next to the road, they will face the road, which is fine. But these right here, you do want to rotate them so they are facing north. So once you build them, you would rotate them twice and they would face north. You can see the bees right here. The bees are kind of on the left. That means they are facing north. I have a whole video dedicated to building the steel mill as well as the beehive explanation if you're not already sure how to do this. When you're in the competition, make sure to turn on Update Town Offline as always. And here's what the auto trade looks like. I have all of these items with an auto trade quantity of 10. I am not selling bamboo shoots that would probably waste extra gasoline. I don't think you need to do that. And you also don't need to sell lumber or gasoline. And here's what the build looks like on the visualizer. Total cost is about 30.7 million. This doesn't include the cost of building the steel mill for the nuclear power, so closer to 32 million. Wages are not this number. For some reason, the visualizer doesn't take into account the wages of the stationery shops. I have it written down, so it seems like the wages should be 30,695 per minute. You can find the file for the visualizer on my Discord server, and an invite link is in the description. I believe I explained everything there is to explain with the build. The only other thing is the cash strategy. Wool has the best cash boost. You're not gonna be selling eco paper for cash, because if you're making eco paper, you might as well just make paper bags and sell that for the meta. But yeah, at the beginning, you probably want to do a wool rush, get a good amount of cash from that. I don't think it's like the best cash rush strategy thing. If you really want to do gold, you could, but yeah, you probably are better off doing wool. I mean, I didn't test to see which one is better, but I would think with the 10 times cash boost to wool, you're better off just selling wool. And I don't know how long some of you have been playing, but wool rush used to be one of the main ones to do before gold even existed. So I know some people here have a lot of experience with that. I'm pretty sure I've done a video of a wool rush before. I can't even remember, it's been so long ago, but I might have done that at some point. The river definitely makes it easier to set up the wool rush. You really just want to alternate between tree farms and sheep pens, and then I just have a bunch of meadows over here. And the first version of this design was doing 32 paper bags per hour, where I had the beehives and the wild clover fields here, but then I only had 2 sheep pens and 8 meadows, and it wasn't cash positive like I said. So this still could be improved very easily to 32 paper bags, as it's already making the bamboo shoots for that, but I think it can be improved a little bit more than that. I'm sure there's ways to fit in additional bamboo farms, but you would have to use subgrid placements in order to have additional buildings somewhere over here. I'm not going to explain exactly how to do that, but I'm sure it's possible. But you know, this design is good where it's at. I think the 31 paper bags per hour will be competitive, especially if you have some other people who aren't paying attention to their cash flow and they may finish their build. It might be cash negative. They might not even have realized that. I don't know. It's possible. So yeah, just make sure that your design is going to be cash positive. You don't want to end up in a situation where you went offline for like 24 hours and then you fast forward and you come back to 0 cash and nothing's working. So hopefully this design helped you create or improve your current design. If you found it helpful or informative, please leave a like, leave a comment, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. If you like the idea of me asking the workers to explain the crafting requirements of the meta, let me know. You can find links on how to support the channel in the description, and as always, I appreciate your support and thank you for watching.